Welcome to Meet the Festival. My name is Katherine Laing, and I am the Education Administrative Manager at the Stratford Festival. As we begin this morning, I'd like to acknowledge that while we're coming from all different places together this morning, the territory where the Stratford Festival is situated is governed by two treaties, the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Belt Covenant of 1701 and the Huron Tract Treaty of 1827. And these lands and waterways have for generations been cared for by the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, and the Wendat and the Neutrals. Whenever I think about the people who have sat where I'm sitting right now over hundreds and thousands of years, I am always filled with gratitude for their care of this land. And it's a gratitude that I'm now able to live and work here. So I really take it as my responsibility to honor these treaties and to always be learning how to be a better treaty partner and do my share of caring for these lands as well. Today, we are talking with two artists from R&J, Eponine Lee and Dante Jemmott. This is Eponine's first season at the festival, and she is playing Juliet in R&J. Credits outside of the festival include Meighen in The Fixing Girl, Carrie in The Girl, Her Mom, and the Raccoon with No Name, both with Young People's Theatre, Fan and Belinda Cratchit in Christmas Carol with Soul Pepper, Mamilius in A Winter's Tale with Shakespeare in the Rough, Lorna in The Full Light of Day with Illuminato Festival and Electric Company, Billy in Tales from the City with Common Boots Theatre, and various characters in Carried Away on the Crest of a Wave with Tarragon Theatre. She has also worked in film, playing the role of Mona in Queen of the Morning Calm. Awards include the Canadian Film Festival Best Breakout Performance in 2020, and Now Magazine's Breakthrough Toronto Stage Artist in 2019. Eponine is also the creator and performer of We Will Be Rising as a Community for Summer Works Performance Festival in 2020, and dramaturge for Childish with Sunny Drake and the Childish Collective. Now, this is Dante's first season with the festival as well, and this season he is playing Romeo in R&J. And Dante is an actor and recording artist who is eager to offer his gifts during this pivotal stage in the performing arts industry. He has appeared in York University Department of Theatre's productions of William Shakespeare's Coriolanus, Charles Mee's Iphigenia 2.0, Susan Laurie Park's 365 Days, 365 Plays, and Amy Rutherford's Mortified. He trained at York University's Acting Conservatory. Welcome both this morning. And just a reminder to those people who are watching with us today, Meet the Festival is an interactive Q&A style format, and I encourage you as you're watching, if you have questions for Eponine or Dante, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we will do our best to answer them for you. So to start with, I am wondering if each of you could share a little bit about who you are, where you grew up, and when you first became interested in acting. And Eponine, I wonder if you would mind if we start with you.
Sure. So I'm Eponine. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you virtually. I grew up in Toronto, and I grew up all the ways around theater. So my parents are theater artists and theater makers. My mom is a director and my dad is an actor. So I always was around the rehearsal process, auditions, and, opening nights, closing nights. So I've always had a love and passion and understanding for theater, I think a lot earlier than a lot of people. And so I think I began acting, and I began to become interested in acting when I was pretty young, I'd say, and I was open to anything I could get. Preparing for auditions and all those kinds of things. So all the way till today.
Amazing. It explains why you've got so many credits in your resume already. It's very impressive.
Thank you.
What about you? Can you tell us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, I grew up in Mississauga and Milton. Just a little bit more of my life in Milton than Mississauga. I've always been involved in little plays and skits and stuff like that at my church growing up. And once I got to high school is when I was exposed to the arts a little bit more intensely with music. I was part of the concert band and the jazz band. I was able to see a lot more art galleries with some arts classes and things like that. And I just really started to have a passion for the arts, and I started doing plays more seriously around grade 10 and started being a part of the school productions, and that's where I found my love for acting.
It's wonderful. It's so great when you can be exposed to those kinds of arts as a young person and then really delve right into them during teenage years. It's amazing. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about your relationship to Shakespeare. Like, what experience did you have, whether it's from learning it or performing it, or just kind of what experience do you have with Shakespeare?
Um,
Start with you this time, if that's all right,
oh
Eponine.
yeah. Oh yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's a good question. My relationship with Shakespeare, I the first experience I had with Shakespeare was probably grade nine English, and I, along with the rest of my class, did not like it at all. um, we just looked at the lines and we read it without passion, and it was boring. Um, and when I think it was my second year at York University, um, when we started playing with sonnets, that I really realized, oh, Shakespeare doesn't have to be boring. There's so much in here that's there's so much language that's so rich, and we're able to play with that. And that's where I actually started to define my appreciation for Shakespeare. Was when I saw my professors and teachers actually enjoying it and teaching us to enjoy it as well. Whereas in high school, it was boring.
I think that's how a lot of people have it. That's like the same experience that they've had. What
Yeah.
about you, Eponine?
Well, like I said before, like my dad was in a production, I think a couple of Shakespeare productions, and I never really showed an interest for it or really understood anything about it until we were both asked to do a Shakespeare show, The Winter's Tale, with Shakespeare in the Rough. And I think that was when I really started to understand that it's a very beautiful way to express something, through the language. And I had a blast doing that production as well. So I think really it was just understanding what it is, and once I was able to actually have fun with it, I think it really opened up a lot of possibilities.
That's great. It's amazing what a difference it makes once you start to feel the action and the story in it rather than the book format of it. So I'm wondering, could you tell us what you love most about working in theater? And maybe we'll change things out. And Eponine, would you mind starting this time?
Oh, of course. I really love meeting new people. That's always the thing that comes to my head the first. I just love that I get to create relationships through, the whole process of creating a play. I love that I get to forge new bonds with people. It's such a beautiful thing that really only theater can capture for me.
Yeah, I'm with Eponine on all of that. For me, also though, I love storytelling, and I think that it's really exciting that as an actor we can storytell with different people. We work on this story of R&J from August to the end of September, and then there's going to be another opportunity for each of us to storytell a different story with a bunch of other different people, and it's really exciting to have that opportunity to do that in this career field. So I love that about acting.
Do you see yourselves ever working in other genres of acting, like film or television, or even different areas of theater?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
But for now, is it focused on acting to start with, and then see where it goes? But
Yeah.
That's yeah. I think the door is definitely open to whatever comes. My strengths are as an actor, but the door is always open to whatever comes.
Mm-hmm. Same for me as well.
cool. So this is not like this play, R&J, is not Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet, but an adaptation of his work, and it's to tell a new story. So can you share a typical day when you were working on the play? What were rehearsals like with this version of the play? Dante, would you like to start this time?
Every morning when we walked into the rehearsal hall, there would be we have stands where we keep our scripts and stuff. And every morning we'd walk into the rehearsal hall, and on our stand, our apprentice stage manager, Aaron, would have left script changes, either additions or cuts, or reconstructions for us to mark in our scripts, and that's because every day we changed something. We added in an audio description line, or we realized that this line wasn't integral to the play, and so we would cut it. Or we realized, oh, hey, this line is actually important. Let's bring this in. And so, yeah, that was so fun to play with every single day up until the last rehearsal. Things were changing, and so that was it's one thing from a day in the life of R&J during the rehearsal process.
Thank you. Eponine, what about you? What was your experience on the play?
Yeah, what Dante said was a lovely highlight for sure. I always look forward to seeing, oh, they changed that or they moved that. I would also like to say that every time when we would start, right bright and early usually, we would announce our presence in the room, which I think was really good for all of us to know that we're all here together as a team and we're going to create something. And as the process went on, we started with just reading the scripts and asking really big, important questions, or really even small questions that are still important. And as we continued to grow and learn from that, the next stage was getting up on our feet, as the director, Ravi Jain, always said, and kind of exploring the space, feeling it out, and just jamming with each other what ideas and possibilities that we had in mind.
That's great. I was wondering, this may come up in another question as we go, but I'm wondering, what was the day like? What was different about these rehearsals because of working with a blind artist as well? Were there, I mean, announcing yourself in the room, I would expect would be part of that, but was there anything else different about the process in that regard?
Yeah, oh, sorry.
Ahead.
We had rope taped around the whole building. The festival theater is wherever Alex had access. There's rope, so she knows where she's going. So the rope will lead her to our break room, to our rehearsal hall, to the dressing rooms. So yeah, that's something that we needed to have in the rehearsal space, just so she had an awareness of where she is and a familiarity with the space.
Wonderful. I just love that aspect of the play as well, to hear it described for the audience as well. It was a wonderful addition to the play. I thought it was great.
Yeah, sorry, I'll also add, sorry.
Yeah, please do.
The stage is littered in tactile things so that she knows where she is as well. So on the floor, we've got carpets with different layers. There's some carpets that have 2 layers, so she knows if she's stepping on a thicker carpet, I'm upstage left. There's grooves on the tables on specific sides, so she knows which side of the table she's on. And so there's been a lot of caretaking with the stage itself as well, for those moments when she's up there by herself.
That's so interesting to hear about how it works from a behind the scenes kind of things that we can't see as an audience, but that are needed and just make things work so well, so smoothly. It's wonderful. I'm wondering, so what do you think, you kind of touched on this, but in terms of your experience, but what was the most exciting thing about working on a new play rather than something that people have seen before? Eponine, would you like to answer first?
That's a really good question. I think just the idea that it's from the perspective of the friar made me so excited to see where this was going to go, because like you said, it's a new play. No one has seen it yet. It's still fresh. And it's really just thrilling to be a part of. And yeah, definitely that for sure. Just the idea.
Excellent. Dante?
Yeah, one of the things that Ravi, our director, talks about is who gets to tell stories. And when we think about R&J, the people that are on the stage for this production aren't technically, or not necessarily, the people that you would think are going to tell the story of Romeo and Juliet. And so the fact that we have the opportunity to be a part of this production is exciting, because I have hope that this will change the way we approach who tells the stories, especially for classics like Shakespeare texts. It's really exciting to be the ones who are influencing this change, and encouraging different perspectives.
I can imagine that. Yeah, it's a wonderful telling. You understand the whole story of Romeo and Juliet, but the fact that it's from such a different perspective really freshens the story and makes things jump out of it that you might not have noticed before as an audience member.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is interesting to see, oh, you can do it in a different way, and it's just as vibrant as the like the traditional version, and but can also add in so many new aspects. It was just a wonderful time in the theater, and encouraging to see, as you say, Dante, to see where it might be able to go in the future with the similar types of things.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So you are both closer in age to the characters of Romeo and Juliet than the actors who typically play them. And I'm wondering, what do you think you bring to these roles that older actors might not? And Eponine, can we start with you?
I tell everyone this all the time. I don't have to remember being 14 in the good old days or try to relive that, because I am 14. I can just be 14. I can just be myself. I can just be Juliet, and I don't have to pretend either. So I think I bring the the authenticity and the just the trueness of what it means to be young, a young person.
That's such a good answer. It's so true. So true. And Dante, what about you?
Yeah, well, I'm in my early 20s. Romeo is 16, so I'm just a little bit older than Romeo actually is. But yeah, there's the youthfulness that I guess I bring, being someone who's recently graduated from post secondary. I'm able to easily connect with uh, with Romeo's feeling as a young person, um, and yeah, I think that's what me being younger, brings to Romeo in this production for sure.
Wonderful. We have a question now from Eliza. And she is wondering, what was it like including your own musical abilities and pieces to the production? And you both were doing that a little bit. And I'm wondering, maybe Don, you want to start with the answer to that one?
So we had a workshop in March, before our rehearsals started in July, but we had a week's workshop in March, and Ravi introduced us to Eponine's song, the song that she sings during the party scene in our production, "Lost in My Mind," and we just played with it, and we said, okay, we'll do it around here, and this is the song that Romeo's gonna hear, and that's when Romeo and Juliet are gonna meet, and we started just saying the lines to each other, and Ravi was like, hold up, can we sing this? And so we just started singing the lyrics to each other and playing around with what that could be, and that's really what inspired that, and it was just really fun to be able to take the text of this shared sonnet, between the two, and make it fun. And what we found is really what I think is the essence of this scene. And when when we when we got to the rehearsal process in July, it was really just about solidifying it, bringing in our own little flavors. And so I did a little bit of rapping, and yeah, it was an opportunity for us to just bring a little bit more of ourselves to this scene, and it was incredibly fun.
Excellent. It really comes across too. It was very powerful. What about you, Eponine? How did you feel about it?
Basically echoing what Dante said, I got to bring myself through Juliet, and I think because I'm very music based, I believe that Juliet is too, and I think that it's a great way for her to express herself, especially her love to Romeo. I love that the first time they meet, they connect through her music, and then the last time they see each other, or almost last time they see each other, is through her music, and I think that's a really special thing, that those two characters can really truly bring to each other and relate to. And I just think it was just cool enough that my own music was to be featured in this show. I think that's amazing and crazy and just so exciting.
It was really touching. I love the guitar, and like the last time you guys are together and you're singing, it was such a touching song. I love that.
Thank you.
We have a comment from someone who's watching today who says, I was very impressed with the performances of both of you on last Saturday. So she just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much.
And another person says that you're both really great. And Dante, you played really convincingly younger than 21. So very well done. I'm wondering if we could talk about the casting of the play a little bit. It differs from other productions. And I'm wondering, like, how can you talk to us a little bit about how the casting of the play did differ from other productions, and how did it influence the storytelling? Eponine, would you like to start? Or, well, either of you, if you have.
Dante, you can go ahead. I'll need to think about it.
Sure. Yeah. I would say it's the Alex Ballmer being a blind actor is the biggest. I would argue the biggest casting difference from others, and I think it really opened up so many doors for us to explore what this story could be. Yesterday, there were a few students that came to see our production, and afterwards, we spent a few moments just chatting with them, and one student said that the fact that this story is told from the friar's perspective, it's like we're getting it secondhand, and that is really reminiscent of what we're experiencing right now during these COVID times, being in isolation, having to watch everything on our screens and not actually be out experiencing what we're seeing. And there's just something really unique about the fact that this story is being told through someone else's lens, that really speaks to what we're experiencing today. But it's also just something completely fresh and new. And like I mentioned before, it gives us the opportunity to explore the different ways to tell a story. And a key thing for our production is the audio description. Having the ability to say what's happening without those things actually happening. Tybalt and Mercutio's sword fight is completely audio described. We don't see that. Romeo and Juliet's kisses, we hear that, we don't see it. And that was something that was really exciting to play with in this production, and something that I think is really fresh and new that our production brings because of the casting.
Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that.
Okay. Yeah, it is. It's there's so many differences in the cast, and in just, well, it fits so well with the way that the production is different than we would normally see Romeo and Juliet. It just blends together really nicely. So the generational divide in this production is very clear. And can you describe how the world of the young people differs from the world of adults? And how do the young people in the play try to find their power amid the world of adults?
Eponine, do you want to go first?
Sure. I think the fact that Romeo and Juliet are young lovers and young people in a world where a lot of the older generations are fighting, and it's influencing the younger generations, like Tybalt and all the other characters. I think it's a weird divide. it's very filled with hate, I think, which is very interesting. It doesn't feel like they're together in that sense, and it makes me a little sad because I think if they were together, if we could bring them together somehow, we would be so much stronger and work together as a full community. So I think R&J really highlights that, and how the younger generation can really help the older generation too, when we can learn from each other.
Absolutely. That is so true. It's such a divide with the two, between the generations. Well put. Dante, would you like to speak to that at all?
Yeah, just to build off of everything Eponine said uh, in R&J, I think we had a lot of conversations about how the feud between the Montagues and Capulets, um, that was all the older people projecting on, but pushing that on to their kids, um, and it it really did feel, at least for me, um, when I'm up there and playing around with Beck Lloyd, who plays Tybalt, and Seppa Raybod, Mercutio, Lisa Nason, Benvolio, when we're all there just before things go south and people start dying, um,
Yeah.
there's a sense of, why are we fighting? What is this? We don't need to do this anymore. Plus, I just got married to your cousin, man. So let's calm down. Um, and it is really interesting how older generations can pass things on to younger generations, and this cyclical thing just starts to happen, and the younger generations might not even know why they're in whatever they're in. Um, and that's something that's huge in R&J, because there really is this sense of, why do these two families hate each other so much? Um, and that question isn't necessarily answered in a clear way. And I think that's definitely reflective of our society in certain areas. Um, that there's just, why do things have to be the way that they are? We should let we should allow younger people to have some say and influence, because that's where change can start.
Exactly. Yeah. It's interesting how, I mean, people talk about Shakespeare being timeless, and I think it really comes through from time to time like this, where it's such a reflection of what's going on in society. And both of you summed it up so well right now, how relevant it is right now, the themes of this play and how it's reflected today in society. It's an interesting way to explore what's going on now and look at that story of how do things get passed down without us even realizing that, like that was happening. We're going to step away from questions of the play. We'll go back to them in a minute, but we have another question from a viewer, Elizabeth. She's wondering, what would your dream role or roles be?
Whoa, that's a big question.
Elizabeth, wow.
It's a good question, though. Dante, do you want to go ahead? I need some time to think.
Okay. Oh man. Okay. I think. Okay. So I really love the brother size, um, and I would be really happy to play any of the characters from that play. If we're talking about a film role, my childhood dream would be to play Spider-Man, Miles Morales.
I could see you. Yeah, totally.
So that's a childhood dream. If I don't think it would ever happen, but that's a childhood dream. But definitely for theater, if one day I could play Ogun or Ochizi from The Brother Size, I'm all for it.
Excellent. And Eponine, do you have a dream role?
I mean, yeah, I mean, if we're talking about theater, like I was actually dancing a lot yesterday to a bunch of like musicals, like Into the Woods and Sound of Music, like just those two, I think for me really resonate with me in the music, and I would love to be a part of the production one day as any of the roles. And I think if in terms of like film, I love stop animation and those like claymation movies like Coraline and Kubo and the Two Strings. So I'd love to be like one of the characters from there to see, how they move and how they help the character in the story too, because those films are so good. That's a really great question.
It is. It's fun to dream about what the possibilities are. If you could be whatever role, it's amazing. There's another question. It's also from Elizabeth. She's wondering, is there another play you'd like to give the R&J treatment to and take apart, rebuild, and recreate?
Ooh, that's a good question too.
I I'm a fan of Measure for Measure. I haven't uh I haven't thought about this question. It's a good question. Um, and maybe I'm answering from a biased place because I just like Measure for Measure. Um, but it would be interesting to see Measure for Measure or Macbeth.
Mhm.
To be honest, I actually don't know a lot of like Shakespeare shows. I know the very like the big ones. But I think I'm gonna just say I'm open to anything because really I think all the plays could use a cool R&J like twist slash makeover. I think that it's really important and really cool to see the play in a different perspective.
I agree. Yeah, that's great. It's interesting. It's such a good question because it does make you stop and think. You picture any place. It's like, oh, how would that happen? What would that change in the play? So, but it's one that would need some time for pondering to see what would that look like. What would be a good one? But it's such a good thing to think about. Um, let's go back to the play a little bit now. And so, part of the conceit of this play is that that it's a memory play told from the perspective of Friar Lawrence. You mentioned that already a little bit. What do you think if the friar were presented again with the same situation they encountered with Romeo and Juliet 5 years ago, do you think that they would they intervene differently? And if they would, in what way?
Well, I think he'd make sure he used the express mail for those letters at the end of the play. um,
It's so true. That would make all the difference.
yeah, um, it's a good question. I think one of the lines that we kept coming back to was when Friar agrees to marry Romeo and Juliet. He says, "Wisely and slow, they stumble that run fast." Um, I think for the Friar, and I don't want to speak for Alex and what she's done with the Friar, but I think for the Friar, there's a sense that things went faster than they were supposed to. That the Friar should have taken more time, and I think if the Friar were to live it again, he'd probably want to take some more time, um, and be more thorough with the planning.
Yeah, it's a good point. Eponine, do you want to add anything?
I mean, what Dante said was like absolutely beautiful. I totally agree. I guess I also, if I'm thinking about like a certain point in the story, I'd say either if Romeo had taken just a tiny bit more time before he drank the potion to take his own life, I think she would have woken up and he would have been like, "Oh, I don't need this. You're alive." Or if the friar had altered the potion that he gave to Juliet to fake her death, if he made it a little bit like less long, she could have woken up earlier too. So there's like the tiny technical things, but the bigger picture is yes, the friar should have, I think, taken time to really break down the plan and really, yeah, to just not stumble. Wisely and slow, as he says.
Exactly. It's so interesting to think about all of those different things. Like if the letter had reached Romeo, if any of these things happened, like it wouldn't have been a tragedy, hopefully, then. And it's
Yeah.
a romantic story. So it is interesting because not many people get a chance to like look back and decide, oh, this is what I would do differently if I could do it again. And the way that this play is set up as looking back brings that more to mind, I think, as a way of looking at the play. So we have another question from somebody who's watching today, and they're wondering, what is your favorite theater piece that just exploded your mind when you saw it?
That's a great question too.
For me, sorry, Eponine, were you going to say something?
No, go ahead.
Okay, cool. I thought, yeah, sorry. Okay, so for me, it was at Soul Pepper Theater. It was the Royale. I think it was 2018 or 2019. But yeah, I saw that show, and it it just blew my mind. There are these moments in the play where I think, oh man, I think there were 5 actors in that play, um, and there were moments when they were all just moving together in unison, and the the power of the production, the lights and stuff in the moments that they were doing those things, it was just really, really cool. And I'd seen theater like that before, but for some reason, it was, and I still don't know why, but for some reason, there was something very impactful about the way they moved together, and the the sound designer and the lighting designer's work all put together was just, yeah, it was stunning. And it just impacted me in such a way. I don't know why. So I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that is a production that really did strike me. And to this day, I have no idea what about it really impacted me, but there was just something about the movements and the lighting and the integration of lights and sound all together working as one. It was so amazing to witness.
That is, and I think that's a good, you can't always explain why something does have that big impact on you. I think that is a fair thing, but it's just wonderful to have that experience of being blown by something like that. Eponine, what about you?
I have two. One of them is called Schoolgirls, or the African Mean Girl play. I saw it, and after the show, I couldn't even, like, I was speechless. That show is like a magnificent piece of work. And maybe I'm a little biased because my mom directed it, but I think, like, besides the direction, the storytelling and the message, like, was crystal clear. And I really took away something from that, which I always try to look for when I see a play is, do I have I learned something? What am I going to be a better person after the show? And just the message and the acting, and it was just hilarious. I had so much fun, and it was so unique as well, because it was like an alleyway show, and there was dancing and like really fun stuff in it. So beautiful. And also the other one is called Passover, and it was also a very, very well done show, very clear message. And the ending, I think, was the one that hit me the most, because one of the main characters dies, and I think it just hit me like, this is reality, this is society. And I again took something away from that as well. Both probably my two most favorite shows that blew my mind.
Amazing. I love that, how theater can be an escape and entertaining and just enjoyment from being in the theater, but at the same time sometimes, or even like separately, but it does make you a better person. You can learn so much. And I think it's such a great way of looking at theater and all the different things it can bring depending on what you need at that time. So another question. I'm wondering, are you able to see your own personalities reflected in characters that you play? Eponine, do you want to give that one a try first?
Yeah, for sure. Especially for R&J, I can see so much of myself through Juliet. But also I do see her as an independent person from me, but I can see, elements of me blended into her, from her music to her spunk, I guess, to her braveness. I think I can see myself in that. And I think R&J for sure is the biggest one where I can see, oh yes, that character is me, but also its own character. But yeah, it's so fun to see, oh, like I can see myself as that person.
Exactly. What about you, Dante?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the beautiful things about the arts is that whatever it is that you're doing, you're bringing yourself to it. No one can ever play Romeo the same way that I play Romeo. Antoine Yard played Romeo in 2017. No one can ever play Romeo how he played Romeo. We all bring ourselves to the parts that we play. And I think that's something that's really beautiful, that every single time we see the same show, different production, we're seeing something different because it's different people that are bringing themselves to the work. And, it's really excellent. Like my Romeo changes every single day because we perform outside. And one day it might be raining and Romeo is affected by the rain. Or one day it's blazing hot and Romeo's sweaty, right? And I'm affected by that. Therefore, Romeo will be affected by that. And I think that that's really awesome about the performing arts and about art in general, is that we bring ourselves to the work that we do, and for that reason, it will always be unique. No one else can ever replicate that, because no one can be me, no one can be Eponine. We come in and we bring ourselves to the work.
Exactly. You bring up an interesting point that I've been kind of asking at various festivals, because I'm interested to get everybody's perspective on their experience. How have you found working outside this season? What do you think it brought, or what were the brought as a, like, in a positive way to the play, and what were some of the challenges that you found with it?
The wasps are a challenge. Oh boy, those wasps. I think it was 2 shows ago, and Eponine, correct me if I'm wrong, that for some reason there were just like dozens of them outside, and we were all just trying to swat them out of our faces. And so we ended up spraying the stage with some bug spray and peppermint and stuff to to try and keep them at bay. But I think, at least for me, that's been a huge challenge, is trying to stay connected with each other on the stage, and not get too distracted by the flying insects. But it's been a lot of fun to have that. I think one of the strengths is that it really does it like I mentioned in my last point, it changes every day because it's different. One oh, I can't remember the line now, but the end of the line, Separeba delivers it as Mercutio, more inconstant than the wind. I can't remember the line before then. That's just the end of the thought. But if it's really windy out, he stands like this, and the wind is blowing in his jacket, and he's like, more inconstant than the wind. And it's so good. It's amazing. I love whenever it's windy, because then I know I'm going on stage with him to see that. And I think that's something really exciting about performing outside, is that the weather, we get to feel the weather, and the fact that the stage is part living space, part greenhouse, it makes sense that there are plants, and like it's just really exciting to be able to do that, and be able to work with whatever nature is bringing our way. It's really exciting to be able to do that. And I keep thinking about what this production of R&J would be like inside, and I don't think it would be the same.
It's true. It's hard to imagine now what it would be like inside. Eponine, what about you? How has your experience been?
Yeah, for sure. Everything that Dante said. I would also say that the light really affects each show, because we're in a tent, the sun comes and then it goes. Sometimes it hides behind the clouds, and especially at the nighttime shows too, it sets, and it's really cool. I think it really affects me, and I don't think just me. I think all the other actors and the story itself. I would also say that we get to kind of we get to experience the show differently. I think with birds and the wasps and trees and the wind, as Lisa Nason always says in the land acknowledgement, we're like kind of listening to nature as well as storytelling. I think that's such a lovely opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful experience as an audience member to be sitting outside and in nature at the same time as watching a beautiful play. We have a comment that's come in who says, I can't wait to see it. It comes highly recommended by those who loved it. So that's great to hear. And then another question, how nervous were you on your first show? Love to hear from both of you. Eponine, will you like to start?
Yes, my first show, it was one of the previews. I think the first preview, I couldn't even tell you how nervous I was. Like my forearms were like tingling. I had like a jitteriness in my stomach. But I was able to get through it because I was with the right people, and it felt exhilarating to be able to perform in front of people again, no matter how nervous I was inside. It was quite a journey.
Yeah.
It's funny for me because we had 4 previews and a couple of invited tech dress rehearsals, all of which I was not nervous for. But we got to opening show, and that's when I started to feel the nerves, and then I haven't felt the nerves since. But I think the reason why I felt nerves is because Ravi Jain, our director, would get onto the stage and talk to the audience before we came out, and he would say, "All right, everyone, they're still in rehearsal. We're still working things out, trying new things." And he would always remind us of that as well. We're still in rehearsal. If you need to call line, things like that. If something happens and we need to stop the show, we'll stop the show and we'll keep going. But opening night, we didn't get that. This is all of a sudden, this is the real deal. If we mess up, we got to fix it in the moment, and things like that were starting to come up for me. I think the safety that I had in knowing that it was rehearsal still, even though we had an audience out there, it was really comforting. And then that was gone on opening, and that's the only show that I've been nervous about.
It's interesting, yeah, but it could totally understandable actually, especially when you explain it that way. That all of a sudden there's this pressure that is felt about opening night. It's such a big celebration, but it's also okay. Here we go. Now it's real thing. Yeah. Exactly. I'm wondering. So I'd like to talk about blindness a little bit. Some of it might overlap with questions that we've talked about before, but I'd still like to explore it in a couple of different ways. The production was built around the concept of blind gain and the idea that blindness is not a deficiency, but it can open up possibilities and perspectives. And how did this impact your experience of the show?
And sorry, just to specify, are you talking about the production itself, or the entire process of rehearsal and all that as well?
I think that for this, probably the production itself, but if you have things you want to talk about the process and rehearsal, that fits too. So
awesome. Yeah, thank you. Okay, I think there's sorry, this is such a good question. I'm just trying to get the words together. I think that one of the, or probably the best thing that we had to gain is the fact that it's like we get to experience something, or at least like all of us get to experience our own I guess idea of what happened, because the audio description is so integrated. I get to choose for myself as an actor what I see, right? Like when Mercutio and Tybalt fight, I get to choose what I see. I get to decide how Mercutio dies in my head, and that's going to be impactful to me. No one gets to decide that for me. And that's the same for Alex. She, as the friar, everything is imagined. Yes, it's all real to her, or to him, the friar, but it's all in his head. He has to imagine that, and I think that is true for all of us, or at least it is for me. That there are points where I have to imagine. I don't get to. We didn't block this. We didn't say what happened. It's just described, and I have to decide what that is for myself. And I think that was a huge gain for me. And I think it's a huge gain for the audience as well, to be able to decide what that first kiss between Romeo and Juliet is. What that interaction between Rosaline and Romeo is before before Romeo talks about it. Because although in the original play we don't actually see the two of them together, like there's still so much described about their relationship in that first scene between Benvolio and Romeo, but now there's much less. and the key things that we've kept in the script are what we get to imagine, and we get to make that up as a cast, as individuals, as an audience, and I think that that's a huge gain. Um, I'm sorry if I described that poorly, but yeah,
No,
that's
that was excellent, Dante. It is so true, because at each of those scenes that are described, the number of people are in the audience, that's how many different versions of that scene people are.
yes.
Each individual person is seeing it their own way, and it's very powerful that way. So that was an excellent answer. Thank you for that. Eponine, what about you?
I think this is connected to what Dante said about like listening, because if we listen to the story, I think we can imagine it even better. It can be a vivid experience and painting of what the fight is with Romeo and Tybalt and the Mercutio. I think, and this is not just for, I think, for me as an actor, I think it really helped me understand like listening is a huge part of embodying these characters, because if we don't listen, then we're not really telling the story. We're only half telling it, I think. And listening is a huge part of Alex Bulmer's world too, who plays the friar. So I think opening my ears was a huge thing that I think everybody gained there.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, you sometimes take listening for granted, but it is it's an art, really. And it's such an important part of acting, but also as an audience to really be hearing what's being said and taking it in as well. So this is kind of more from the production, like backstage point of view of it. What impact did the accessible dramaturgy, so the inclusion of the blind audience considerations of the play, have on you as an artist? And how will it affect the way you work on future shows? So shows in the future, even if they aren't specifically designed in this way, what will you bring from this into those?
So I can't remember what show it was, but it was one of our earlier shows that Why Not Theater did like a talk back after one of our performances, and Christine Horn, our assistant director, received some feedback about the at the beginning of the play. Rick Roberts, who plays Capulet, he describes the stage, the fact that the friar never leaves, the fact that it's a living room or living space, greenhouse. He describes what's going to happen, essentially, and what's going on. The fact that it's memories, it's not happening in real time, all of those things. And someone in the audience that attended the talkback said he loved it. And Christine explained that if we were doing this for a completely sighted audience, that is something that probably would not be included in this play. But the person who shared that comment was a sighted person, and she pointed out the fact that he appreciated it just as much as someone who actually needed it to understand what was going on stage because of low vision. And if we continue to make theater like this, it becomes accessible to all people, no matter where we come from or what our experiences are, or what quote unquote limitations we might have. This production, like I mentioned at the beginning, I think is going to open up a lot of doors and for change, because it really does make it accessible for all, and it's something that all can enjoy. So that's something that I've taken away from this.
Wonderful. And Eponine, do you want to add anything?
I think mine is on the same lines as Dante. I've definitely taken away, especially audio description, and how I remember I was watching like a TV show on Netflix, and I accidentally had the audio description on, and I didn't like it because it felt like it was kind of taking me out of the story, and it just didn't really sound like something that was pleasing for me. But learning from R&J, and even the process of integrating the audio description, even with the story, not just making the story and then having someone describe it in the corner or whatever, having it as a part of the story, as a way to tell to communicate to the audience, it made it so much more clear and fun and playful to have audio description into the play. So as an actor and a theater artist and a creator, definitely audio description and the possibilities of that.
Definitely. I was really, I had never experienced that before, and I just loved it. And I felt it really added it. I was wondering if I would feel like it was distracting, but it was not at all. It just added to the experience so well. It was wonderful. It was educational for me to go and see that and learn what it could be. And that was, enjoyed that a lot. We're almost out of time, so this was going to be the last question. I'm wondering, what do you think this adaptation brings to the audience, young and old alike, that Shakespeare's version may not be able to?
Dante, do you want to go ahead? Unless you need more time to think.
I think I have something. I just want to be nice about it. I think so we've cut a lot, or not we, Ravi, Christine, and Alex, they cut a lot to make this play an hour and a half. And at some point during the rehearsal process, I went back to the original script to read it, just to help me in understanding my role a bit better. And what I understood after reading it is that Ravi, Christine, and Alex did such an amazing job of bringing in everything that we needed. There wasn't anything else that was there just because it was there. It was all that we needed, all of the key things from the text. And I found myself getting bored. I was like, I don't want to read this whole Queen Mab speech. Why? We have what we need in R&J, the final lines of that speech, right? Like I think that this production does a really great job of giving us the key points or the key parts of the play that we need to understand it. And while it's great to know the entire play, after being a part of this and having the script and looking at the lengths of the scripts in comparison, it makes it more exciting to be able to, the entire way through, just be excited by everything that's happening, because it's all that we need. There isn't anything in between that we don't. I hope that was nice enough, Shakespeare.
Oh, it totally is. It's good. It's a really good point. And it is amazing that you can pare down the main story and have it and still get all the important parts in with an hour and a half. Like, they've done an incredible job of editing it for that and adapting it that way. Eponine, what would you think?
I think for me, for our production, I have to say, it really does a good job of showing how powerful the younger generation can be. And I think we talked about this a little bit, but I get so inspired by when I think that Romeo and Juliet, they almost brought their families together. They were like this close. And if it weren't for, some of the older people, I think, they had a chance to reunite their families and their communities and bury this feud that has been going on for generations and generations. So especially to see that two young people playing young people, it's like a really in your face thing. It really shows the impact that youth can have. And I feel that we are often underestimated, but in this case, they really had the chance. So yeah, how powerful youth can be.
Exactly. That's wonderful. And it's so true. And it really is a good example of how we should really give more opportunity to young people who've got so much to bring to so many areas of life with it. So thank you for that. Thank you both for both of your time. So we're out of time now, but I want to thank you, Eponine and Dante, for being here today. It's been wonderful to talk with you. And thank you for the performances in R&J. It's such a great show. And thank you to those that have been watching this morning for being here and for your questions. We have one more Meet the Festival left this season. It's next Saturday at 10 a.m. and it is with Steve Ross and Sarah Farb from the cabaret Finally Their Son. So I hope that you'll be able to join us for that as well. Thank you so much for being here today. Bye.